Thanks, Angie, for that great introduction. I'll try to live up to it. Really had y'all a good speaker tonight, but they canceled, so this is what you got. And so, man, I don't know. I'm just going to start by saying my name is Rob, and I'm an alcoholic. And get this out of the way early because when I tell my story, I got to tell my story. I'm also an addict, and drugs will be a part of my story. But I'll try to keep it respectful for AA because AA is what saved my life. I use both programs now, and the other one enhances my life. This is the one that saved my life. So I'm eternally grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. I was born in Anson County a long time ago, and to a wonderful family. I mean, I had best parents, best grandparents, and I can't blame anything that happened with me down the road on anything in my childhood. It just wasn't there. I mean, they were good to me. They only wanted what was best for me, and that's what they gave me, what was best for me to the best of their ability. And I don't know, I'm just, I'll always be grateful for my family. They're still there for me. Never turned their back on me whenever I was going through what I went through for all these years. And I turned my back on them. There was times when I wouldn't even call them. And I went over a year one time, didn't even let my mom know where I was at when I was out there doing the things I was doing. And now, man, my mom's got cancer, and I don't know. It's I've spent the last 3 years making up for what I did all those other years, and and I'm grateful now that I think God brought me in the program, brought me in this last time so I would have this time with her, because if I was still out there doing what I was doing and knowing that I would end up losing my mom to a disease that I hate, and I would have a lot of regret. I had a lot of regret when my dad passed because of some of the things I did and was never able to make amends to him until after he was gone. And that was a tough one. Anyway, I had a very good childhood. The only thing with me is I was never satisfied with anything. It's like no matter what I had, I wanted more. I was addicted to more. I'm still addicted to more. It's just I try now to put that aside and be happy and content with what I have today. But I only learned that by coming into Alcoholics Anonymous. It's like I was never content. And I took my first drink when I was 13, I think. I was at a friend's lake house, and see, here's what they had. They had malt duck, Miller ponies, and something, champagne. It was like the worst of the worst is what they had, and but to me it was great because I didn't get really drunk the first time I drank, but it did give me that sense of everything's okay, and so I would every weekend after that first time I would go back up there and spend the weekend and drink on the weekend. That was my thing, and that was when I was about 13. His mom would go get it for us, which was kind of, I thought at the time that was great, But my family found out I was doing that, and they were just like not really fazed by it because everybody was doing it. It was just they just wanted me to be safe and not be in vehicles with people and stuff like that. So, but I drank on the weekends up until I got out of high school, and smoked a little marijuana while I was in. I did more smoking marijuana in high school than I did drinking, but it was just because it was available. It was always there, and I could actually do that at school a little bit. I couldn't drink at school because it'd be on my breath. I could go out at lunchtime and hit that and go back in. That's why my grades were terrible, because I was not straight. But anyway, life was good. I went to college. When I got to college, that's when I started drinking every day. That was my thing. I no longer had to be accountable to anybody. So I was on my own up there, and it was alcohol every day. It was like it started off in the evenings after I finished class and had dinner and everything. Then I'd start drinking. Eventually, it became I was drinking in the middle of the day. And if I had afternoon class, that got in the way of my drinking, so I had to do away with the class. But I was that guy that when I got drunk, if you invited me to your party, I got drunk, I was going to tear something up. I was going to be loud. I was just a dude that you didn't want around, And so it got to the point where people would be like, okay, you're welcome to come, but we're going to monitor how much you're drinking. And I was like, well, good luck with that. But I would always I was that dude that everybody be shaking their head the next day, telling me what I did. Like, I remember ripping the toilet seat off somebody's toilet and was wearing it around my neck one night. I remember being told I did that anyway. I remember getting boxes of cereal, being told I got boxes of cereal just all over a person's apartment. I was that guy, I was the kind of guy I wouldn't like, but that's what I did in college. So I never graduated college, by the way. I stuck around for about 3.5 years, because it was fun to me. At that point, my drinking was fun. It was, even though I had a serious problem and I was a blackout drinker, to me, I didn't have any consequences, so it was fun. But that changed later on. It ended up, when I quit school, I ended up getting married, and my wife didn't like me drinking, but it was just one of those things. I did it every day, and it's like, so I would leave her at home and I'd be out drinking. And then I got a next door neighbor that liked to drink like me, so I started drinking with my next door neighbor. And so at least I wasn't driving anymore. I was just right next door, but it didn't matter to her. I still wasn't home. So ended up losing that marriage over some crazy stuff I did while I was drinking in a blackout. But, just because I was in a blackout doesn't mean that she didn't find that was something I shouldn't have been doing. So I moved to Charleston, South Carolina not long after that. I got into the insurance business, and I was terrible at the insurance business. It was I didn't know how to talk to people. I was used to talking to people like I would on the street. I didn't know how to talk to people in a professional manner. And so I about starved down there. It's like I made enough money to pay my rent and get some gas and drink, but I couldn't find enough money for food. So South Carolina had happy hours at the time, so I'd make sure I was always in the bar for happy hour to get happy hour food and drink dollar drafts, and I was good. So that's what I did. And I remember so many times waking up the next day and wondering how I got home, and my car would be there. The door might be left wide open, but the car was there and I was there. And so many times I should have got pulled for a DUI, and I never did. And I never got a DUI, not yet anyway. Let's hope I never do. I see so many people's lives got messed up with those things. But I was always, I guess you could say, fortunate enough not to get one. But anyway, something happened when I was in the insurance business. Me and my boss got into an argument, and I ended up losing my job at that place. And it was real easy to fire me because I did not bring anything to the table. I was terrible. And but it just so happened that the office in Charleston, which was right down the street, I was working in Walterboro. In Charleston, the manager of that office hated the manager in Walterboro. So when I went down there and asked for a job, he said, "Are you willing to do anything to make that man look bad?" I said, "Sure, I'll be glad to." So I went to work there, and the guy taught me how to sell. And I went from being one of the last place people in the company with 4 months to go to the end of the year, and I finished number 3 in the company. It was just like all of a sudden a light came on, and sales has been easy for me ever since then. I wasn't the most honest person in the world when I was out there selling, but it was easy for me to do it. And but man, along with working hard came playing hard too, and it was just like my drinking got worse than it was, and I didn't know that was even possible, but it did. But did really good in it for a while, and then that office got shut down because of some shady stuff going on, and so I left that and started working in clubs. And when I started working in clubs, then I got introduced to other things, and I ended up getting married too, and the second time. And man, I tell you, I got divorced my first wife, by the way, because of some of the stuff I was doing. But man, that second wife, I got paid back for everything I did to that first one. It was like her name should have been Karma, and it would have fit perfectly, man. I saw what it felt like to be treated the way I treated the first one. So, and believe it or not, we're still married today, and we just haven't got a divorce yet. I think we lived together a year and a half, and I think we just celebrated our 22nd wedding anniversary. That's what a good alcoholic just puts things off, and that's what I did. I just kept putting it off. Yeah, that's fun. But you know, that's actually saved me from making that mistake again many times over the years. Think I found the right one, and we can't get married. I'm already married, so I guess you did me a service, you know. But anyway, I came back to North Carolina after I married my second wife, and got out of the club business, went back in the insurance. But that's a pattern with me. But back then it was clubs, insurance, clubs, insurance, clubs, insurance. It's just like I would burn everything down in one and go to the other one because it was the two things I knew how to do, sales and insurance. So, but I was up here in North Carolina, got back in the insurance business, and did really well up here and got promoted all the way up to where I was district manager for a company that's no longer around called Liberty Life. And I was over the western part of North Carolina and had a lot of people working for me, and did really well at it, but I was hating it though. I just hated that from having a filter to being the filter was no good to me, because everything that came out of the home office, I got the full blunt of it, and that stress from that, man, it just really kicked the substances and the alcoholism back in real hard. So I did that for a little bit, and ended up leaving the company and going back to South Carolina, working in clubs again. When I got back down there this time, I got on heavy drugs real quick. That's when I started doing cocaine really quickly. That lasted for a little while until I found meth and ecstasy and started doing them. Then I got on heroin, and after heroin's something that I actually quit doing. Went through the withdrawals and everything without going to detox or anything. It was hard, but I quit it. But I didn't really quit anything, because the same time I quit heroin's when I found crack. And man, that started about a 12-year run with crack every day. And it was as much as I could buy, as much as I could get on fronts, as much as I could buy with your money. I'd steal from you and take it to the pawn shop. I mean, I became a person that I don't know, man. I didn't recognize myself. I mean, if I look back on that now, I wouldn't recognize me. I stole from my family. I stole from everybody. I mean, nobody was safe, because if I was going to steal from my mother and my grandmother and my father, I would steal from anybody. So I started working in sales jobs, like at a well-known rent-to-own company and two well-known phone companies, and stole from all three of them. Got caught with two of them with what was the charges? Felonious obtaining property by false pretenses, carried 39-month sentence. The second one, my lawyer told me, he said, you're going to probably pull most of that. And I was like, really? I was like, man, I didn't kill anybody. But he didn't think that was funny, when I said that. But now I went to court expecting that day to go pull sometime anyway, because I was still on probation from the first one. And I don't know, man. I had a good friend of mine showed up at court with me. The guy used to be the director here, and he told him that he had known me for a long time. He'd seen me at my best, seen me at my worst, and said that I was not the same person. I'm skipped over the whole getting clean part, but I'm just going to tell you this first, then I'll go back to it. Wasn't the same person I was when I was out there. And the judge said, she gave me a prayer for judgment, believe it or not, that second one. So this program works. And it's only because I was doing the next right thing. It was totally unexpected, but I didn't have to pull any time at all. So it was great. Anyway, first time I went to treatment was back in 2009. And I went to Florida. And I went down there, and I had no idea about these programs, about Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics, any of the programs, and went in there. I had no clue what to do. I didn't really have willingness to learn at the time. I knew I needed to get away from the situation, the trouble I was in. That's why I went. And so I completed a 35-day program in Florida. And they flew me home after the program was over, and went right back in that same environment over in Anson County. I stayed clean about a week. At the end of 2 weeks, I was back full force, smoking crack every day, stealing, and it was just like I gotta get back down there. So I called them. They took me right back. So by the time I got back down there in the program, there was still people in there that came in while I was in there the first time. They were still there. So they kept me for 28 the second time because my insurance ran out after 28 days. This time I stayed in Florida, stayed in a halfway house, and did good for about 6 months, and relapsed. Then went back in, stayed another 6 months. So I put together 2 6-month stints while I was down there, and was doing really well. But I just wasn't ready yet. My mom, she was diagnosed with cancer back in 2010, and the best thing I could have done for her was stay in Florida and stay in recovery. But my disease told me I needed to come home and help her. It's just like, man, I came home and I about killed her. I really did. Just the worry and everything, her not knowing where I was at, what I was doing. I wouldn't answer my phone, and I'd call her when I needed something, and she would always give it to me because she didn't have any Al-Anon or Narcanon or whatever you call that. She didn't know how to say no to me because she knew if she didn't give it to me, I was going to rob somebody or steal from somebody. So she thought she was doing the right thing, But things got really bad, and I got arrested the first time. That's when I came here, right after I got arrested the first time. First time I came to Samaritan Colony, I don't know if I came because I was actually wanting help or if I was trying to stay out of jail. I don't know what the reason was. But when I came in here, I learned a lot. Just, they taught me everything. Taught me it was a disease. Taught me that, it wasn't a moral issue. I wasn't a bad person because I thought I was a terrible person. I didn't like myself at all. Matter of fact, I hated myself. I'd been wanting to quit for so long and didn't know how to. And I thought I was going to end up really making my mom go crazy or die out of stress. And she's my favorite person in this world, and I didn't want to hurt her, but I didn't know how to not hurt her. So anyway, I came in here the first time, learned what I could while I was in here, and I really worked it hard in here. And when I got out, I was like, man, I think I'm going to be okay. They said, why don't you go up to Moore County to one of our recovery homes? I like that idea, but I like my idea better. I think I'll be all right. I'm going back to Wadesboro for a little while and then get back down to Florida when I get this court case taken care of. And they were like, all right, go do it your way. We'll see you later. And that's what I did. I went back, and I was sincere about wanting to stay clean and sober and in recovery. And I ended up having to get a job again because my mom was letting me stay at her house because it was short term. Everybody thought I was going to be back in Florida because I got a huge recovery family down there. But the case kept they kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off to the point where it's like it was continuance after continuance. I had to work. So I got a job. When I got that job, I started making money again. I started feeling better about myself again. And all of a sudden, my meetings and calling my sponsor and praying and all those things that I was taught to do in here weren't important anymore. It was like I've got to work as much as I can to make as much money as I can so I can move. And then one day, man, I don't know what it was. Something snapped in me. And I was in a where was that? I was in one of the Mexican restaurants here in Wadesboro. And the lady walked by with a margarita on a tray, and I was like, yeah, I want one of them. I said, I don't even like alcohol, because I had quit alcohol a long time before that. Everything, my devil at this time was cocaine, crack. That was my devil. So I was like, man, I deserve to have a drink. I'm doing all right. So I had one, and then that's the only one I had. I went home, and everything was good. But the next time I was in there, I got another one. And then I'd go home, and I was like, man, I could go get me a beer and have me a beer at the house. So it's just started that cycle because my disease is not going to come at me with a crack rock. It's going to come at me with something like a drink, because it knows what's coming later. So after about 2 weeks of thinking I was getting away with something, I woke up one morning and I was like, you done messed up and relapsed, man. Why don't you go get what you really want? And that's what I did. And I was back on it, man. I went and looked for my dope man all day long. I couldn't find him. I went back at work. Probably about 2 hours before the end of the day, he walked in the store. He didn't know I was looking for him. He came in to buy a phone. And I was like, man, must be God's will, I mean, that's what I'm sitting there thinking, And so I was back on that train. And man, when they say that this thing is progressive, and they say when I pick up, it's going to be just as bad as it was, if not worse. It's not going to be any honeymoon period where, okay, it feels good. It was immediate hell as soon as I picked up. And it was sick. I spent 6.5 months out there on it this past time, every day. And it got, man, I was even living with a lady that I didn't even like, but she had a nice bank account. And it's just like she'd take me to the ATM machine, and I cleaned her out of about $20,000 in 6 months on top of what I stole from everybody else. That's how far down I went this past time. It was like I was going to find somebody, I was going to cling on to that person, and I was going to just drain them of everything they got. That's not who I am, but that's what I did. And anyway, after a while, man, after I got arrested that last time, man, I called over and talked to Robert. He's the first person I talked to. And Robert's like, man, I saw him at Greenlight at one of our meetings. He told me, he said, man, if the horse is out of the barn, we can get it back in, but you need to come back in order to do that. And I was lying to him, telling him, man, everything's all right. It wasn't all right. But I finally did call and talk to him, and he talked to Mark and got me on the waiting list. Man, while I was on that waiting list, this life was going terrible for me. I went and got me another job after I got fired from that one and arrested on the same day. Yeah, it was. I was getting a string of good things happening all at once. Went to work at this other job, and they hired me one day, fired me the next because my background check came in, and I called down here. Mark picked up the phone. I told Mark, I was like, man, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, because I didn't tell him this, but I tried to kill myself about a week before I came in this last time because life was bad. And I wanted to quit, and I just could not quit smoking crack. I couldn't do it. It was like I'd wake up in the morning and be like, I'm not doing that today. And before I would get to work, before I went to work, I'd be outside waiting on the dope man to pull up because I'd just cave and call him. I just could not go through a morning without that, and had to take pain pills because I was so addicted to them I couldn't get out of bed till I took some. That was what my life was, and I was like, if this is what it is, I don't want it. So got Mark on the phone, and I told him, I said, Mark, I've been arrested again. I just got fired, second time in 2 weeks. I'm about to be homeless because that lady was getting a little tired of my crap, you know. She should have been tired of it a long time before that. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. He said, I know what you're going to do. He said, you're going to get your ass back over here. That's exactly what he told me. He said, you want to come in the morning or you want to come Monday? This was a Thursday when I talked to him. I said, dude, I ain't going to make it to Monday. I'm just not, you know. And he said, well, get over here in the morning. Man, I was over here bright and early ready to go the next day. I called my mom. She let me stay there one night with the agreement I would be leaving the next morning. And so I stayed there, and my stepdad brought me over here the next morning early. And I came back in, man. I was so embarrassed because they had taught me everything I needed to do this thing. It's just I let my priorities get mixed up. That's all it was. It wasn't like I left out here with the intentions of ever using again or drinking again. That wasn't my intentions. It's just that my priorities got inverted to where doing my readings and praying and calling my sponsor and making meetings and all that stuff was just like didn't mean anything to me anymore. And whenever I cut them out one at a time, eventually that drink looked good. It looked real good. And so I don't know, when I came over here the second time, man, I got right back into the book, man, and started doing everything the way they told me. And this time, whenever I was getting out, they said, okay, we can give you that same opportunity again. You want to go to Moore County. First, Mark told me when I came in, he said, look, if I hear you say you're going to go do it your way, and you're going to go back to Florida, he said, you're going to leave whenever I hear you say that. He said, I don't want to hear any of your plans, so your plans ain't no good. So I was like, okay. So when he offered me the opportunity to go back, go up to Moore County, this time I took it. And went up there, got me a sponsor, started making a lot of meetings because I didn't find a job for a while. My record was so terrible, I can sell anything to anybody, but I couldn't get past the background check, so I couldn't get a job. I finally humbled myself enough to go start doing pressure washing. And I did that for 6-7 months every day. And I'm out of shape, and I'm old, and it was cold, or it was extremely hot, and it was miserable. But you know what? I was grateful to do it. I was grateful for that because I'd never had to humble myself for anything before. And I think God told me, he said, you're going to get humble this time, buddy, you know. Because every time I would relapse before and get back into the program, everything came back like that, always. It's like no consequences. I don't care if I got fired, I got arrested. I don't care what it was. It's just like everything was okay. This last time it wasn't. And I had to work for it. And got me a sponsor, got in the book, and worked the steps. You know, and he helped me get rid of a lot of anger I had. Because I had a lot of anger when I came in this last time because I didn't know if it was going to work for me. About here's what I did know. I was going to give it every opportunity this time. And then if it didn't work, I was going to go get high and I was going to say, okay, I tried it. It didn't work. And I probably wrote it out to the end if that would have happened. But thank God that it didn't work out like that. That by working the steps and listening to what everyone that has to do with the recovery homes up there, what they asked me to do and doing it, and making friends with so many people in the program and staying with the people in the program and eventually sponsoring people and having this wonderful opportunity to come work at the place that saved my life. And, I remember the day that I got offered that job. It was the hottest day in the summer. I just got in from pressure washing. I was tired. I didn't feel good. I was laying around, and Pat walked in, and he was like, "Hey, Rob, I just come to see if you're ready to come go work with us." I was like, "Hell yeah, I am." You know how hot it is out there today? And so anyway, he said, "That's the answer I wanted. I wanted to hear the enthusiasm." So it took him about 2 weeks to get it worked out, and I was here, and been here ever since. And man, this job, it doesn't pay me a lot of money, and I don't even care about that because I get the benefits from this place from watching other people see the light come on with them. Man, made some of the best friends I'll ever have by being here. Just like Daryl, man, I love Daryl to death. I mean, we talk all the time, and I always got something good to tell me too, man. And I wouldn't have known Daryl if it hadn't been for this opportunity, And I don't know, you get to see people come through here and broken, man. And I see myself whenever I see them broken like that. I remember what it was like to be scared and upset and mad. And I'm just lucky that I get to see the light come on sometimes. It doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes you get to see that light come on. And man, I don't know. There ain't enough money to take that away. I love that. The other side of it is I get to see people go out and do what I did all those other times, go out there and just take their will back and stop doing the things. But hell, that's part of it's part of their story. That's part of what happens. I never look down on anybody that relapses. I definitely hope nobody looked down on me. It's what it took to get me to where I'm at, So anyway, life's good today. I got a good relationship with my mom, my stepdad, my brother, my family. Man, and so many people in this program. I pull my phone out right now, and it takes a while for me to scroll through all the names and phone numbers I got in there. And all those names and numbers and stuff is people that I got since being in this program here. I don't keep numbers of very many earth people. You got to be a little bit messed up like I am, and then I feel comfortable. So anyway, man, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for life today. I really am, and I appreciate me for asking me to speak tonight. Thanks.